Hello everyone, welcome to the webinar today. This is Tableau Giving Level Year-over-Year Trend. And any guesses as to what this little critter is in the corner here? I'll let you think about that. I'm Glenn Kendall with Concourse Hosting. Also with me today is Holly Kendall.
Hi everybody.
For those of you that are new to GoToWebinar, you'll see this control panel on the right-hand side. It may or may not have a creature looking like that inside of it. Don't be alarmed if it does. It's perfectly normal. At least it is for our webinars. What you'll want to do is take the section that says questions, and you can go ahead and pop that section out of the control panel, and then hit the arrow at the top to minimize the rest of the control panel. That way you can see what we're doing on the screen here, and you'll be able to also ask questions and whatnot as we go along. So the way we like to do it is just go ahead and ask questions as they come up, and we'll be watching for those and just answer the questions as we go along here. So it's paint by numbers. We're going to be building something, basically a Tableau worksheet. Looking at giving level year over year, so that at the end, you'll be able to, have this worksheet that you can use yourself. So what we'll be focusing on is giving level pyramids. If you attended last week's webinar, you'll learn about that. Otherwise, we'll cover what that is. We'll be going over table calculations and how those work in Tableau, and also filters. Okay, any final guesses? I don't see any questions coming up there. So you can enter your guess as to what that critter was in the window. Going once, going twice. Guess we have a shy audience today. Maybe they're multitasking. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a wombat. Here's some fun facts about wombats. Their butt is made of a very tough cartilage. So when they're going to escape from predators, they stick their head in a hole, their den, and they can have their butt basically plugging the hole, and predators are not able to get a hold of them because their cartilage in their butt is so tough. They have cube-shaped poop, believe it or not. They use that for marking their territory, and because it's cube-shaped, it doesn't roll around. It just is left where they drop it. They're also champion diggers and can sprint up to 25 miles an hour. Fun facts about wombats. We love wombats here at Concourse. All right, into Tableau. We are currently using Tableau 10.2, so I'm going to be building this in Tableau 10.2 desktop. We're going to be upgrading to Tableau 10.3 over the weekend, which has some really cool features in it, like connect to data via Dropbox, and also has data-driven email alerts. We'll be doing a webinar in the future about that. Okay, once here in Tableau, you'll need to connect to data. I happen to be signed into our Tableau server, and we have sample data on there. So that's how I'm going to connect to data. I can connect to Excel, CSVs, or whatever, but I'm going to say connect to Tableau server. Here's all these data sources, because this is a lot of testing and whatnot that we're doing. But the main one here that we're going to be working with is this gift data source. So this is something cool that we do here at Concourse, where we connect your data to a data source. So we pull your data right at a razor's edge and connect it to this, or transform it into this data source. But these fields here in this gifts data source are the same fields that are available to you within
Razor's Edge query.
So the idea is that you can take existing Razor's Edge gift queries that you already have, and you'll notice these fields look very similar because they are. They're the same fields that you have in RE query, plus other things connected to it also in Razor's Edge query: appeals, campaigns, funds, fund attributes, gift attributes, all sorts of cool stuff. So a couple things I want to point out here right off the bat is that today, if you don't have Tableau with us, don't be alarmed. You can still do this kind of thing. We're just going to be working with a few fields. So today, we're looking at, we're going to be doing gift date as one of the fields. We'll also be doing gift type. Okay. And then we'll also be doing gift amount. So in Tableau, if you use gift amount, you'll want to, when you're summing those values together, you'll want to go ahead and create what's called a level of detail calculation around that. So we have already created one that's built into the data source that we call gift amount LOD. And basically what you need to do is associate the gift ID, which is the actual, the system ID or just some unique identifier. And then this is the format that you do for calculating the level of detail. And this basically, by doing this in Tableau, you won't have duplicates. If you don't do this, you could get double counting of your gifts. So you just need to make sure that you create a level of detail calculation when you're summing your gifts. So that's how we do it. One other thing that we do is we also have another calculated field that's a gift date. So this is basically just your regular gift date, but we associate it with your fiscal year. That's why it says gift date FY. In this particular case, we're connecting to the sample database, which it pulls the fiscal year. We calculate it based on the data in your database. So this changes automatically depending on what data it sees in there. So for the sample data, it's just the calendar year. But for your data, your fiscal year may start in June or July, and so we'll automatically update to that accordingly. But again, if you're doing an export and doing this yourself, you can easily do this by just basically replicating or creating a copy of the gift date. And then what you do is go into the copy of it, and then, or you can even do this with the, you don't have to do it with the copy, just do it with the gift date that you have. And then change the default properties, change fiscal year start, and then just pick your fiscal year in here. Okay? So again, any questions that anyone has, you can go ahead and type it in there as we go. So before we start building here, there's another calculated field that we created called giving level. So this is really the focus of what we've been doing the past couple of weeks, is looking at gifts based on these different giving level, we call it pyramids. So this is just a simple if-else calculated field. So we can send you a copy of this after the webinar, but you can, we'll be recording this. You can get a copy of it at the end as well. But basically, you can just make your own calculated field based on this. That just says, hey, if the gift amount is of a certain value, then that's a certain giving level. So we're just doing it in tens. So if it's less than $10, it's the up to $10 gift amount. If it's more than 10 but less than or equal to 100, it's the 10 to 100 gift amount. We just do it in increments of 10 like that. So that gives us a sense of, the different giving levels all the way up to more than $1 million. Question just came in. Can you go and read it?
Yeah, so this question says, if Concourse hosts our Tableau, do you also need to host our RE? Short answer, if you wanted to update automatically, we have a nightly refresh that runs. So if we do host your RE, that will automatically run. but if you don't want to host with us, you can just send us a copy of your database whenever you want it to update, and we'll run that for you.
Right, so if you're hosted with Blackbaud or hosted yourself, we just need to get a copy of your database. You can send that to us as much as daily. So if you can get a daily backup of your database, or most people do weekly or every other week, but whatever works for you. So you upload a copy of your database to us, and then we'll do a refresh within 24 hours after we get it. So no, you don't have to host with us, and in fact, some of our clients, have either their own hosting or host with Blackbaud. So
here, and actually, before we move forward with building the report, just for us to get a sense of how much experience you, the audience, have, can you just go ahead and type in just roughly how long you've been using Tableau products or Tableau desktop? If you've been using it for a year, or you're very familiar with it, or you're a brand new user, or you've never heard of Tableau before today, just so we can get a sense of kind of what pace we need to move at.
So it looks like the majority of people are relatively new or brand new to Tableau. We do have a couple people that are pretty experienced with multiple years of experience. Cool. Yeah, so those of you that have more experience too, if you have suggestions along the way as well, feel free to throw that out there. But yeah, it looks like we have a bit of a mix here, mostly new users. So we'll try to keep it slow and simple. And all right, you ready to dive in here, start building this?
That sounds good.
Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is start with gift date. So all I can do is just simply drag this over. Again, I'm using this gift date FY. And when I do that, it just defaults to the year. So here's all the years that I have data in the system. Next, I'm going to drag, well, before I do that, I want to get rid of my giving level copy, because it made a copy when I was looking at it. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to drag over giving level. So these will be side by side. So I'll move this over a little bit. Okay, so now you can see here's each of my years, and then here's the giving levels that I have. Now some of them don't have all of the giving levels, like this 2006 only has 3, and even some of the later ones, like 2016 doesn't have the more than $1 million. And that happens just because there's no data in the system. So for the sample data that I have, there weren't any gifts of that amount. That's all that is. Okay. So then the next thing I'm going to do is pull gift amount up here on my columns. So now I can see this is how much was given at each of these different giving levels. And it's defaulting to use a bar graph, which is fine. That's what I want it to do. I can also pull gift amount over to the label. I want to do that. And I can also pull it over to color. So by default, it just assigns a color range to it. So we're going to modify that a little bit. So all we're looking at this point is just the gift amounts themselves. So here's the different giving levels, and then how much was given at that giving level for each of the years. So in order to compare one year versus another, what we want to do is create a table calculation. And Tableau makes that really easy to do. What you can do is just go up here to the pill. These are called pills. and then there's an option in here to just add a quick table calculation. So we can do different things, running total and whatnot, but we're going to be looking at the difference. In this case, the percent difference. So immediately, as soon as we do that, then it changes. Now, I did it for my graph, but my other values here, I need to do that as well because these are all independent of each other. So I'm going to do percent difference on the label and also on the color. Okay. Now, another thing that you need to be aware of when you do table calculations is that it's going to just do it based on the layout of the data, basically. So you need to tell it what you're going to compute it using. So in this case, we're going to do it based on the gift date, the fiscal year gift date. And we're going to do it relative to the previous year, or the previous gift date. In this case, we're looking at years. And the same thing here. Tell this to do relative to the gift date, and for the color, also relative to the gift date. So as soon as we do that, now we have things represented in terms of the difference, and then we can see on here what those differences are year to year. Any questions about any of that? So one of the things you'll notice is that 2002, there's nothing here. 2003, there's nothing, but that's because there was no data. But you're always going to have this case when you're doing table calculations. When it's doing it versus the previous year, there is no previous year in this particular one. And it shows up here as a null. So Tableau is telling us that it doesn't have any values for the percent difference because these don't exist. So what would you like to do with these? We're going to just basically exclude it. So we can just tell Tableau to go ahead and filter the data. And then when it does that, it basically just gets rid of 2002 as far as the graph goes, but it's keeping it in the calculation so that 2003 is still keeping it as a comparison. Okay? All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is a little bit of formatting to make this look a little bit nicer. One of the things, sort of the, when you do the labels, you can either choose to exclude the labels. I can remove this pill and get rid of the labels on there. I kind of like having the labels, but sometimes it can be a little bit much. So let's try this. Let's do, just to have all of those numbers on there. I don't necessarily want that, but let's maybe make the font a little bit bigger for those. So we'll make that 12 point. Is that big enough, Holly? You think maybe 14?
14 is good.
Okay. There's a checkbox down here where you can tell it to allow labels to overlap other marks. I like to turn it off because I think it might be a little bit too much information to have in there. So then it's just showing you, some of the values, and you can just get a sense of what's going on. let's try that to start with. On the colors, it automatically does sort of this orange-blue diverging. I mean, we can do something else. We can do red-green. And then do a stepped color. Go ahead and apply that. Looks like we have a question up here.
The question is, can we go through the percentages again?
Sure. What the percentages are, it's a built-in feature of Tableau that's called a table calculation. So I'm going to go ahead and clear it. Clear the table calculation for all of these. So by default, when I just grab the gift amount and drag it over, it creates, because it's a measure, it wants to aggregate it together. So it's going to do it as a sum. So it's basically, here's the total amount of gifts, just the number. This is the amount. But what we're interested in is we want to compare, like how did this year compare with last year? So for the more than a million, for example, like, hey, we got a lot here, but, you know, the previous year we didn't get anything. Or, you know, we made 227 at the 1 to 10K, but here we made, you know, 192. Like, what does that mean as a percentage? So we can just, instead of showing the total gift amount, we can say, do this quick table calculation. Instead of showing the amount, show the percent difference of the amount. And then when we do that, we also have to tell it how to compute it. So to compute it based on the gift date. And then that does it for the bars, but then we also have to do the same thing for the colors and also the labels. Quick table calculation, percent difference, and then compute using gift date. So now what it's showing is that, you know, we had 18% more gifts at this giving level than we did over the previous year. This was, and these were down. So it's just in the background comparing. If you made, you know, 100,000 previous year, this year you made, you know, 120,000, then it'll show, oh, you had this much percentage increase over the previous year, 20% more. And then segmented, of course, by our giving levels. Does that make more sense? Cool. Okay. So more formatting. Should we do some more formatting? Let's do a little more formatting here. Let's rename our sheet, first of all. We'll call this giving level year over year. Edit the title. By default, it does the sheet name. We'll make this bigger, make it orange, bold. So that goes in the middle. Another question.
Can this analysis be portrayed like a trend based on time? Then how did the 10 to 100 change in percentage across the years?
Yeah, so we can do I think we would have to experiment with different things here to see if these would give us what we're looking for. The original one, the table down, might be doing that. So I think you can experiment based on your selections of how to compute it, whether you want to do the table down, and then I think maybe other things that might be useful is like the pane down. But yeah, I would say do something like that, and that might give you what you're looking for there. So the question really is there, instead of looking at it year to year, like look at it like overall, like how are we doing now versus, you know, 5 years ago, like what's been the total increase, not just over last year, but instead of just doing year to year like we're doing now. Okay. So that's a nice thing about these table calculations in Tableau, is that because this is all built in, you can just play around with those and experiment with them and see what, you know, what's going to give you the information represented how you want to see it. So some more formatting things here that are always useful to do is we want to always include the GIF type as a filter. So I'm going to add that over here. And then this way you can make sure that you're excluding or including, as the case may be, pledges. You're at least accounting for pledges versus pay cash. So I'm going to exclude things that would otherwise possibly be double counted in the data. So I can add that as a filter, and then what I can do is I can also show the filter over here. I can also format it so that it shows up as a multi-value drop-down list. So that way it's not taking up that real estate, and I can just, you know, pick the values I want and have those show up there. The next thing that you'd probably want to filter on is the gift date. So just drag it over to the filters. We're going to do relative dates. So it gives you the option, what are we talking about here? Let's do years. Let's do the last 5 years. So this simplifies the graph. It's probably what we're mainly interested in anyway. And we can also, again, show the filter. And this gives the user, after you publish the workbook, this gives them the choice to be able to cycle through and look at different things. And then finally, you probably want to include the giving level as a filter. Again, show the filter. So this will give the user the capability to pick the giving levels that they're interested in. So they may only be interested in, you know, kind of the annual giving type giving levels. So say, basically, different things up to 1,000. And they're just interested to see, like, how are those things? You know, other people might be interested in bigger ones. Just show me the big gifts. And don't show me the little ones. I want to see those trends. So by giving some level of interactivity without going too crazy in terms of the filtering, you let your user interact with it and sort of, you know, drive the information that they're getting based on their needs or interests of that time. If it only ever does one thing and you don't allow for any interactivity, then they may say, oh, well, that wasn't what I was looking for, and then never come back to it again. Whereas it's like, oh, you know, they could have easily got the information if they would have just clicked on a couple of things, or had they known that that was an option. So yeah, I think the only other thing I would do here is maybe hide the field labels, because we don't need, we kind of know that these are the giving levels, these are the years. We don't need that extra bit in there taking up room. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So for those of you that have Tableau with us, this is a new workbook that we just published today to your Tableau site. So you'll see it under your GIFs project in Tableau. That'll be, you know, just available to you in there. And yeah, does anyone else have any other questions? How modifiable are these templates?
Well, you're free to edit and modify them as you wish. When we publish these to the Tableau server site, we make it so you can save as the workbook, so you're able to add in any additional fields or filters that you want, but you just can't accidentally save over the original.
Yeah, I think the most challenging part of working with Tableau is first getting the data piece sorted out. This may look intimidating when you first look at it, just because we're pulling a lot of data to replicate the Razor's Edge query data source, or, you know, gift query rather. But in this case, all we're looking at is just the gift amount, the gift dates, gift type, and then we created a calculated field called giving level. So if you want to do this on your own to start with, you would just need to export your data and include those fields, and that's it. That's all you need to start with. Of course, the challenge is that every time you wanted to refresh the data, you'd have to do another export. In this particular case, if you're just looking at year-over-year trends, it's not as big a deal, because you're not going to be doing that, you know, every day. For some of the other reports that we have, you know, you'll want the data to refresh more often. So that's really the advantage of doing Tableau through Concourse, is that because we have the data prepped for you and just pulling it out of Razor's Edge, like, you don't have to worry about that part of it. It's just going to refresh and be available and be ready for you to get in and start building things with. And plus we do training and other things like that. So yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We will stick around a couple more minutes for any last-minute questions. Thank you all very much for attending today.
Thank you.